and welcome. You're watching the Newstrack. I'm Rahul Kamal. Rules for the Citizenship Amendment Act have finally been notified by the Union Home Ministry. What impact may this decision have on the Lok Sabha elections in states like West Bengal, in Assam and elsewhere? That's my top focus on the Newstrack.
Weeks before Lok Sabha polls, big move by Modi government. CAA rules notified. Politics erupts over CAA. Opposition questions timing. CAA showdown. Big focus on Newstrack.
The Modi government today notified rules for the Citizenship Amendment Act 4 years after it was passed by Parliament. The CAA will provide citizenship to refugees from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh who face religious persecution and came to India before the 31st of December 2019. The centre has made it clear that the CAA will not take away citizenship of any Indian citizen, but politics over the CAA is already escalating, with chief ministers of opposition ruled states saying they will not be implementing CAA in their states.
Weeks before India heads into crucial general elections and 4 years after it was passed in the parliament, the Modi government has notified rules for the Citizenship Amendment Act. CAA grants Indian citizenship to refugees who came to India before December 31st, 2014 on religious grounds. It covers 3 neighboring countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh, and includes 6 minority communities: Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis and Christians.
অসংখ্য মানুষ যারা রয়েছে ধর্মীয়ভাবে প্রতারিত হয়ে যারা ভারতবর্ষে এসে আশ্রয় নিয়েছে তাদের প্রত্যেকের জন্য এই আইন অত্যন্ত ফলপ্রসূ হবে এবং এই আইন নাগরিকত্ব দেওয়ার আইন, একটা লোকেরও নাগরিকত্ব এই আইনের মাধ্যমে যাবে না।
While the government has assured that CAA will not take away citizenship of any Indian citizen, Mamata Banerjee was the first to oppose the law.
আজও যদি কারো অধিকার কেড়ে নেওয়া হয়, মনে রাখবেন তৃণমূল কংগ্রেস একমাত্র রাজনৈতিক দল সর্বপ্রথম সে আওয়াজ তুলবে, আন্দোলন তুলবে।
Other opposition parties are also questioning the timing of CAA implementation.
The way they are trying to bring it today is to make the election polarized. Mr. Modi is losing. He is going to be below 220. Therefore, he is trying to polarize it. The last weapon is CAA rules and to divert from the real issue of electoral bonds.
तो अब ये सब करके हिंदू मुसलमान करेंगे, भारत पाकिस्तान करेंगे, भारत बांग्लादेश करेंगे। एक खेल, आखिरी खेल उनका चल रहा है। चलने दो, लागू होने दो। ये खेल करते रहते हैं लोग। अभी जब तक चुनाव है तब तक ये CAA खेलने दो।
The Ministry of Home Affairs has created a web portal for CAA and all application will have to be submitted online. Bureau Report, India Today.
What impact can the notification of the Citizenship Amendment Act rules have on the Lok Sabha elections, particularly in contentious states like West Bengal, also in a state potentially like Assam and elsewhere? I want to go across first to Raghav Avasthi, right-leaning political analyst who joins us on this broadcast. Raghav, the opposition is asking why just before the announcement of election dates, at some point in time in the coming days, the Election Commission of India is supposed to announce the dates and the poll schedule. The opposition alleges that the CAA rules have been notified just before the elections are announced, that there is maximum impact, that this is an attempt by the government to try and polarize the election before the dates are announced.
Look, I think there is no question of any polarization whatsoever, because as has been rightly pointed out on many occasions, the CAA is not about denying anybody's citizenship. Now it is an empirical fact which is verifiable that the Hindu population in Pakistan and Bangladesh has actually fallen greatly since independence, while the Muslim population has grown in India. And that is a fact because of our constitution. People of all religions are flourishing. But it's not the same with the situation of Hindus in Bangladesh and Pakistan, as I mentioned earlier, is not the same. And this was the manifesto promise of the BJP. And we know what happened the last time the CA was passed in Parliament. After that, there was the COVID crisis, and then there were a lot of things that were happening. And if it is happening on the eve of the elections, I don't see what is the big fuss about it. Every political party is entitled, when it is in government, to implement its manifesto promises in such a way that they remain fresh in the minds of the people. So I don't understand
Okay, so you're saying
why
the
there are.
timing is really of the government's own choosing, and the opposition can crib and curse them, but there's nothing they can do because the government put it in the manifesto, so it's not as if they're doing something which wasn't promised to the people. Secondly, the CA rules that have been notified, Mohammad Tawsifur Rahman is a spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. Mamata Banerjee has taken the most stringent position against the CA. The fact is that the CA rules say that people who are citizens of India, no matter where they came from, will not be denied citizenship. So the whole trope in West Bengal and elsewhere is that this will somehow mean that all these people who've come in potentially from Bangladesh and from elsewhere will now be sent back, or it will lead to some kind of majority versus minority chaos. They're saying, no, this is only for persecuted minorities in countries like Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and it has no bearing on anybody who's already a citizen of India. So what is it that the TMC is so worried about?
So I understand whatever the BJP wants to explain, but we have our own concern. If the concern is according to the article, the Article 10 and 11 of the Constitution allows the Parliament to frame laws on citizenship, but those laws cannot be against the Constitution. The CAA clearly defies the Article 6 of the Constitution. I mean, you just need to understand, if I go wrong, you can attack me back as well. I'm saying to the BJP panelists. I mean, the CAA 2019 does not use the term minority. Instead, it identifies 6 non-Muslim communities. The naming of the communities on religion basis actually goes against the establishment of the Constitution of the principles. The Constitution introduced terms as such as minorities, scheduled caste, and scheduled tribe as secular administrative categories. For instance, if a social group is culturally, religiously, linguistically distinct and numerically inferior, it might be recognized as a minority. The problem is how they want to implicate this. The problem is why they are so much delayed in the process. The problem is why just 3-4 days ahead of Lok Sabha polls. I mean, it's just an eyewash, sir. What you want to show to the people of India, what kind of charity you want to do with the people who already been crossed. They were kicked off in 2016-17. Where was BJP? We are the ones sitting in Bengal. We are helping the Mauas. We are helping the scheduled tribes. And whoever the kind of refugee we have given the Pathas, I mean the land, we have given the Zameens.
Okay,
not those
so you're saying it's not just about the CA, Sanju Verma, it's the CA and the NRC together, which becomes, according to the opposition, a deadly combination. Let me try and explain to our viewers what they're saying. So the CA is about who can get citizenship in India before 31st December 2019. Then there is the National Registry of Citizens, which basically looks at who all are incorporated as Indian citizens. The opposition will say that those who are not Indian citizens, who are not in the NRC, and now because there is CAA, they are not from those 6 minority religions from these countries and therefore cannot apply for Indian citizenship, they will then become illegal. So they're saying don't just go by CAA, it's CAA plus NRC, which together is the problem the opposition is trying to flag. Sanju Verma.
And it will
Thank you, Rahul. Rahul, I need my time, please. Thank you. I will deal with all the issues that you've put forth. First and foremost, I'm so glad that the rules of CAA are coming to fruition. People say, "अरे 4 साल के बाद क्यों किया? ये तो 4 साल पहले होना चाहिए था." तो देर आए दुरुस्त आए to the perennial pessimists. But more importantly, first argument against CAA, it violates Article 14 of the Constitution. But let me tell you that this has nothing to do with any bona fide Indian citizen. It deals with persecuted minorities from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan. So Article 14 का तो यहाँ पर जिक्र करना भी it does not hold any water. Point number 2, the BJP is trying to polarize and communalize the electorate. So let me remind Jairam Ramesh specifically through your show, Rahul Kanwal, because he has an opinion on everything under the sun, incoherent as it may be. Mr. Jairam Ramesh, it was on the 8th of April, 1950, that the Nehru-Liaquat Ali Pact was signed, and under the aegis of that pact, minorities in both countries, India and Pakistan, were supposed to be preserved, protected and rehabilitated. Now, unfortunately, Liaquat Ali expired in October 1951, and the protection to persecuted minorities remained a chimera, remained a dream. And the man who was Home Minister under Jawaharlal Nehru and the Labour and Employment Minister under Pandit Nehru, a man called Gulzari Lal Nanda, who was also twice the caretaker Prime Minister, albeit for a brief period in India, he openly said that, you know, the CAA, you call it what you will by a different term, should have been implemented right then. Unfortunately, after
you aren't answering my question, Sanju Verma. The question that the opposition has is CAA plus NRC. CAA by itself, you know, you can argue and explain why you brought it. When you look at the aggregate impact of having a national registry of citizens where illegal immigrants will obviously not become citizenship, and CAA takes away any potential of them becoming Indian citizens, and suddenly you will have in states like Assam, in states like West Bengal, a whole group of people who exist in our country at this moment who then are illegal, and and most of them are from the minority community, the Muslim community, and therefore it will lead to a Hindu versus Muslim polarization. Respond to this charge, CAA plus NRC together.
I'm responding to your charge, Rahul. You gave the TMC a free run to say whatever he wanted to say.
Man, he spoke for lesser time than you. He spoke for lesser time than you. Respond to my question, but go on.
Can I respond? You're not the anchor.
Okay, Tasifi, let her speak. I'll come back to you because she didn't answer my question. Allow her to answer my question. I will come back to you.
I'm coming to your question, Rahul. Yeah. Rahul, let's get one thing very clear. The CAA, as you have been repeatedly reinforcing, deals not with Indian citizens, minority or majority. It deals from persecuted minorities from Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Pakistan, whereas the NRC deals with the legitimate record of citizens in India, the national registry, what you will. And specifically speaking of West Bengal, let me tell you one thing that you should also be talking of. It was way back in 2007 that Buddhadev Bhattacharya, Mamata Banerjee's predecessor, had said that as per the Indira Gandhi Mujibur Rahman Agreement of 1972, we will give citizenship status to the Mathua Samaj. And as you know, the Mathua Samaj is basically the Nam Shudra Dalit community, which is how they are, classified as. I want to ask Mamata Banerjee, you are giving lectures to Narendra Modi. You have been in power for more than 2 terms. This is your 3rd term running. You had promised in 2011, हम मठुआ समाज को citizenship status देंगे. Why are they still languishing in the?
So let me actually counter this and ask Mohammad Tasifur, because, you know, even if we look at the opposition charge, which is that CAA will give citizenship to persecuted minorities, NRC will ensure that those who are illegal immigrants in India, illegally settled here, will suddenly be in no man's land because they can't become Indian citizens, can't have Aadhaar card, can't benefit from any government scheme, and therefore they will then be stuck. Most people who are watching this broadcast at this time will say, why does Mamata Banerjee have sympathy towards these illegal immigrants? If these people from Bangladesh, from other countries have entered India illegally, why should we tolerate them? I mean, America doesn't have a situation where any Mexican can come in or any Latin American can come into India. Why should these people be allowed into India? And is the Mamata Banerjee government showing sympathy towards them because they largely vote for you and are one of the reasons why you are in power in West Bengal? If they were to be sent back or if action were to be taken, most people who are watching at this time would frankly say, yes, we don't want these illegal immigrants. If they are persecuted, if it's a different matter. If they are not persecuted and if they're just coming in, I mean, please stay in Myanmar or stay in Bangladesh. Why come to India?
Exactly.
Tasifur?
Have you, Rahul?
I can't believe you didn't hear my question.
No. It was just breaking a little bit. Can I hear the last part what you said?
Sir, my question is this, that if you ask most people who are watching this broadcast, they would say, is Mamata Banerjee worried about these illegal immigrants because they largely vote for the Trinamool? Because it's been a long-running practice that local leaders help them get some kind of Indian certification. They stay back, they vote for the Trinamool. Most people would say if they are illegally in our country, why should we accept them? If they have no problem in their country, it's not like they're being persecuted. If they have no problem in their country, why should we accept them? Mexico is not allowed to send any number of Mexicans into America. America has very strong rules about who can come in and who can't. Why should India have this open door towards any illegal immigrant who wants to come into India?
Now, this is what we want to clarify. That will this law will ask the minorities to leave from here, or the prosecuted minorities, or the people staying before 2014 will be asked to leave India, yes or no? We want to know the laws, we want to know the implication, how they want to do it. And when they are talking, nahi bhaiya, 2014 के बाद से जो भी यहाँ पर आया,
December 19.
December 19, जो भी आएगा हम उनको वो दे दें. So there is a kind of hypocrisy. You want to charge Mamata Banerjee government that she wants to save the people.
No, why are you sympathetic towards these illegal immigrants? Why should I welcome them? They're on my land, in my country. We already are the world's most populated country. Why should we open our door to illegal immigrants?
Even the Bhajpa, if you see, the Bhajpa got 18 seats in West Bengal. Where was Bhajpa when they wanted the vote from those illegal immigrants? I'm not diverting the issue, Rahul. You have a valid point. You have a valid point. Now they say कि हमारे जितने भी लोग बाहर से आए हम उनको धक्का मार के नहीं भगाने वाले. We want to save them. I mean, if in that case, who did the development of Mathura Thakur Bari? We did it. Who has built the college and the universities? Yes, we did it. Our government has done. No one else.
No, you're not answering my question, Mohammad Tasifur. It's almost as if you're not understanding or pretending not to understand what I'm saying. I'm saying, why are you sympathetic towards these illegal immigrants? Why is your heart bleeding for them?
No. See, these illegal immigrants are coming after 2011, after the TMC government arrived in West Bengal, or they are staying here since 1947. Who are these people? You need to rectify them, Rahul. Even we have some questions how to rectify them. We have the refugees colony as well. So are you going to say that these refugees came after 2011? Or they are here staying since 1947 or 1965 or 71?
No, but why are you confusing the matter? The government's notification says that those who've come before December 31, 2019, those who are Indian citizens will stay Indian citizens. For those who've come after, why are you confusing this?
No, I'm not confusing. Let the implications begin and we'll see to it. We are not running behind. We are not running backwards. That no, we are not karne denge. Whatever the thing is has to be clear with black and white.
Okay. So now the next question, Sanju Verma, really is this, which is what it comes down to. Okay, so once CAA plus NRC is implemented, in every state you'll have a certain number of people. In states like Bengal, it will be running into the millions potentially, who are illegal. Ab inka karna kya hai? Their charge is, because they are from the minority, you will say send them back to Bangladesh. Bangladesh's government, even though it's friendly towards us, will not take these citizens back, saying, boss, they're your citizens, you can't send them back. And therefore, they will become in no man's land, and therefore, even if they aren't persecuted now, they will feel persecuted later. And because they are from the minority community, that's what you want, because it suits, because the opposite suits the Trinamool, this suits you, which is why you're doing it. Respond to this concern.
You know, Rahul, that's a very nice question, and I want to bring out one very important nuance here in the entire debate. You know, as you rightly said, the threshold cutoff date for implementing CAA is those who entered India prior to 31st December 2014. And I'm talking of persecuted religious minorities. Now, if you notice very carefully, who are the persecuted minorities? Basically, 2011 ke dauran, during the Mahakumbh and Kumbh Mela, many Hindus from Pakistan came and they settled outskirts of Delhi ke aspas, Majnu ka Tila, which is where most of the migrants are living. But remember one thing, these are not illegal migrants because they came on a visa and then they never went back to Pakistan and settled down here. Now, prior to Taliban taking over Afghanistan, somewhere in 2012-13, persecuted Hindus and Parsis from Afghanistan came and settled.
No, you are not answering my question, Sanju Verma. No, but please come to my question, because I also have a second debate to go to. There will be a certain number of people who will be identified as illegal migrants. What is your government's plan for those illegal migrants? Iska jawab do na.
उसी पे जवाब दे रहे हो भाई साहब. All I'm saying is कि यदि आप वीजा के साथ किसी लीगल डॉक्यूमेंट के साथ इंडिया आए थे, पाकिस्तान, बांग्लादेश या अफगानिस्तान से, पर वापस नहीं गए, then you will be granted citizenship. But यदि आप एक illegal रोहिंग्या हो, you just came in, you know, without any valid documentation, then India is not a signatory to the United Nations.
No, so what happens to them? Because Myanmar won't take them back, Bangladesh will not take them back, whatever number it is.
ये कहाँ लिखा है कि बांग्लादेश उनको नहीं लेगा, म्यांमार नहीं लेगा?
We've spoken to the Bangladesh government. Ma'am, the Bangladesh government has made quite clear, madam, the Bangladesh government has made quite clear that it doesn't accept them as Bangladeshi citizens.
What are you trying to tell me that the government should mollycoddle illegal Rohingyas? वो नहीं होगा. ये
नहीं तो
हमेशा
कहाँ
ही
जाएंगे?
आप लोगों के शो पर कहा है.
Ma'am, but where will they go?
Illegal
Okay, no,
Rohingyas
please,
will
please,
not be
just one second.
rehabilitated.
Let's try and talk rationality here. You've identified these people as being illegal, okay?
Screaming repeatedly when I'm talking.
Ma'am,
What's your problem?
we've identified a certain number of people as being illegally in India. The Bangladeshi government won't take them back. The Myanmarese government won't take them back. My question is, what will you do with them?
That is what I'm coming to. Wait. So now we have made a distinction between valid migrants who came on a valid visa but did not go back versus Rohingyas who came to India without any valid documentation. These are illegal migrants. These are not persecuted minorities. These are not refugees. They will be sent back. How they will be sent back, whether there will be some kind of a bilateral agreement with Bangladesh or with Myanmar, that we have to see. But India is not, beholden
No,
to
but that's
keep them
just
here because we are not a
Raghav
signatory
Avasti,
to the
listen.
International
Now that's a
Refugee
political
Protocol
point.
of
The fact of
1967.
the matter is that the Rohingyas are a persecuted community in Myanmar. Now some of them may have just come in without being persecuted, but as a whole, it is as clear as day that the Rohingyas are being terribly persecuted in Myanmar. Now you've got a group of people who the government after CAA and NRC has identified as being illegally present on Indian soil. That question needs to, Sanju Verma is getting agitated and saying, how dare they stay, which is all great. Where will they go? Myanmar is not taking them back, Bangladesh is not taking them back. Where will they go? Kya hoga unka?
I will first speak with my lawyer hat. Sanjuji rightly pointed out that India is not a signatory to the UN Refugee Convention, and I will add one more point to that. India is also what is known as a dualist country. It's not a monist country, right? So even if there was a convention that India was signatory to, the convention would have to be enacted into domestic law. As of now, we are at step 0. So we have absolutely no legal obligation under international law just because there is an international convention that some other countries are signatories to. It does not enjoin any obligation upon us. So this is something that we need to understand in legal terms. We are not obliged to keep any immigrant who's come into this country illegally, irrespective of how much persecution they face. The legal position
No, so
might
where
be
will they
different.
go? Let's talk brass tacks. Now you've got a community of illegal people. Where will they go? What will you do with them?
The first step is to repatriate them. They will have to be repatriated.
Ma'am, but Bangladesh and Myanmar is not going to take those people back. They've already said so.
They have said so.
Then it doesn't matter. In India, they have political rights in India.
But Narendra Modi will ensure that illegal Rohingyas are sent back.
Now, how will you ensure that?
Ensure that illegal Rohingyas are sent back.
How will you ensure
I'm
that?
having my concern,
No,
Rahul.
so are you trying
Rahul,
to
this
tell
is
me
why I'm having my concern.
that India कोई धर्मशाला है?
नहीं, but ये तो political, अरे बाबा, Sanju Verma, that's a political rhetorical argument. If it's a debate, you get 10 on 10. But in the real world, Rohingyas are persecuted in Myanmar. Thousands have been killed. They've been displaced from their villages and they've been sent. Some of them slipped into India. Now they are here. Myanmar is not willing to take them back. What will you do? Will you throw them into the Arabian Sea, the West? What will you do? Will you throw them into the Bay of Bengal?
Not be allowed to vote or participate in political process in India.
Can you stop making it so noisy? Can I just come in for 30 seconds? I'll tell
Okay,
you
let
what
Sanju
exactly
Verma
is
speak.
happening.
What will you do? Will you throw them in the Bay of Bengal?
अरे भाई साहब चुप हो जाओ ना, इतनी बार सवाल रिपीट क्यों कर रहे हो? I heard you. I'm not deaf, Rahul. As of now, there are 2 lakh illegal Sri Lankan Tamils. There are 25,000 illegal Afghanis, and there are about 45,000 illegal Rohingyas. किसी को भी अरेबियन सी या बे ऑफ बंगाल में ढकेला नहीं गया है. But because we are not a signatory,
Tausifu, let us speak. Let us speak. No, this is not right. Let Sanju complete.
we will all I'm saying is Rahul, फिलहाल म्यांमार ने मना किया है, you're right. फिलहाल बांग्लादेश, Pakistan, whichever the relevant countries are, they don't want to take back the illegal migrants from their respective nations. But the Modi government will engage with these countries, will ensure that diplomatic heft is used, and these people are rehabilitated in their own nations. India धर्मशाला थोड़ी है कि भाई यहाँ पर 2 लाख
but they're not willing to take them back. Raghav Avasti, they're not willing to. You can keep saying we'll send them. So that is the problem. No? Then all these people then are actually persecuted because they can't go back to their country. We suddenly say you're no longer welcome over here, and then they are stuck. You can't obviously throw them in the Bay of Bengal. Even Donald Trump couldn't do that.
This is why we are saying
Speak, and you can't interrupt everybody. This is not fair.
Yeah, I agree.
To add your
Tosifu, let him
statement,
speak. Let Raghav speak.
points, right? So the first point that is to be made here is that as an initial step, we need to make sure that these people don't get to participate in the political process, right? So once we've identified them, we can make sure that they are not getting any Aadhaar cards or any documents through illegal
Okay,
means.
that's
That is
fair.
the
Don't
first
make them
point.
citizens. That's fair.
That's
Nobody
the
can
first
quarrel
point.
with that.
That's the
But
first
then do
point.
what with them?
As far as the second
We will
point is
use our good
concerned,
opportunity.
And now, Sanjuji, you are speaking
Nations.
over him. That's not fair either. Let him speak, please.
what we can do, as Sanjuji also rightly pointed out, the diplomatic help can be used, and in the meantime, we can have some sort of a halfway house.
What is the halfway
They cannot
house?
stay as citizens. They cannot stay as citizens. So maybe
No,
we
where
can
will they
build some
go?
centers. We can build some centers where they can stay. There are so many such holding centers at the US-Mexican border.
No,
We
but
can
they're
do
it's
that.
not a small number. When it comes to illegal Bangladeshi immigrants,
First,
it
we
runs
need to
into the
figure out.
lakhs, potentially even in the millions, depending on how you actually do the classification.
First, we need to figure out as to what the cutoff date is. Once we've figured out the cutoff date is, and we have some idea as to the numbers, then we can make arrangements.
Tasifu, now
Right
come back
now,
to what
it's
Sanju Verma and Raghav are saying. You know, the bit that I agree with in what they're saying is that India is not a dharamshala. No, one second. Tasifu, respond. India, so of course, this whole process is messy. This whole process is not a pleasant process. But at some point in time, you have to say enough is enough. We cannot just keep taking, because in the bordering districts of Assam and West Bengal, demographics have been changed largely, sometimes also for political reasons, because it has suited the governments over there. So at some point in time, you need to take the bull by the horns and say, no, enough is enough. We can't keep having all these illegal immigrants slide in.
I absolutely agree with you. Some people want to become more pious than the Pope, but I have my own concern, Rahul, and I will stick to it. You know, the article which I was talking about, this act also excludes Muslim in two ways. It highlights the persecution of non-Muslim in neighboring Muslim countries, and at the same time does not include Muslims in the list of preferred migrants. This incursion is seen as a violation of Article 14, equality before law, and Article 25, freedoms of religion. If the fundamental reason for this policy in India desire to redress persecution, why does it draw a line at some faith but exclude others? I have my concern. I want to talk to your viewers. I mean, it's very gaudy looking things कि हाँ भैया कोई भी असम के MP भी आके दो checking that I'm very much fascinated with this law, but somewhere or the other, people will get affected and where they are going to stay. And of course, when CAA will come, NRC will also come as well. You can't deny
Why
that.
is it anti-Muslim? You know, let Sanju, I'm out of time, and that's a whole different debate. And we hope to ask the Home Minister and several other people at the India Today conclave this question. But this is an important point, that Rohingyas are also persecuted, badly so, and very clearly documented their persecution. Why can't they come in? Why should it exclude one religion and include Parsis and Christians and Sikhs and Hindus, but not one community?
Okay, Rahul Kamal, let me ask you, how many theocratic Islamic nations are there who have openly declared that they follow Islam? 57 is what I heard. Have any of these 57 nations said कि भाई ये रोहिंग्यास हमारे यहाँ भेज दीजिए? तो क्या सारा ठेका भारत ने ले रखा है? जबकि I repeat, we are not a signatory to the
No, but why are you
International
willing to
Refugee
take
Protocol?
persecuted people from some religions but not Muslims? Then they'll
I
say
will go back.
internationally
This
that
was
you're
crystallized.
anti-Muslim.
अरे भाई साहब, this was crystallized way back on the 8th of April between Nehru and Liaquat Ali. जो 1950 में होना चाहिए था, वो आज 2024 में हो रहा है. Thanks to Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, persecuted minorities are being given citizenship.
Okay. Now
Hindus
this is
are
a
persecuted minorities in Pakistan, or Muslims persecuted minorities in Pakistan. Hindus are persecuted minorities in Bangladesh, or are Muslims persecuted minorities in Bangladesh? इसका जवाब नहीं है आपके पास, राहुल कंवल?
no. So what if in Tamil, what if in Sri Lanka there are persecuted minorities who are not Hindus? You know, Sri Lanka has Buddhs. They have different kinds
I
of
told you
religion.
there are over 2 lakh Sri Lankan Tamils who are still staying as refugees in India, and they are likely to be given citizenship status because they came with valid documents. If you came into India without valid documents, you will be sent back, if not today, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, after tomorrow.
Okay. So
आज
this
नहीं
is,
तो 3 महीने बाद या 3
okay,
साल
I'm
बाद.
out of time and I need to move on because I want to shift attention to the electoral bond debate as well. But the fact is that this is an ideological project. This is something the government is doing with conviction because it believes it has the people's support with them. Now, the morality of what is at play, why exclude one community and another, the government is willing to overlook that and say, this is what we promised. We were voted by the Indian citizen to come to power, and we've delivered on our promise. And it's not like we hid that we were going to do this. We went with our manifesto, which had the promise of a Citizenship Amendment Act, and before the elections are announced, we've gone out and announced. Now, every citizen really, on the basis of his own morality and the basis of his own conscience, to determine whether or not they think that is right or wrong, and everybody will have their own view on it. But we'll track what happens and the reactions in different states very carefully. I want to shift our attention to the other part that I want to track tonight. The Supreme Court today dismissed the State Bank of India's plea seeking more time to furnish details of electoral bonds. The top court has now ordered the SBI to provide donor details to the Election Commission by tomorrow. But while information about who bought the bonds and which party received how much funds from them will be revealed, details about who donated how much to which party will still not be known. Here's a detailed report.
A big blow to State Bank of India in poll bonds case. Supreme Court on Monday pulled up India's biggest bank for delaying revealing details of electoral bonds despite the earlier SC order. The SC junked SBI's plea seeking time till June 30 and asked it to share data by Tuesday. The poll panel has been asked to upload the data on its website by 5 p.m. on Friday.
SBI is directed to disclose the details by the close of the business hours, 12 March 2024. Full stop. As regards the ECI, we direct that ECI shall compile the information and publish the details in its official website no later than by 15 March, by 5 p.m. on 15 March 2024.
The top court warned that if SBI fails to adhere, it will face contempt proceedings.
Bearing in mind the application which was submitted for extension of time, we place SBI on notice that this court may be inclined to proceed against it for willful disobedience of the judgment if SBI does not comply with the directions of this court as set out in its judgment dated 15 February 2024 by the timelines indicated in this order.
But in a big relief for SBI, which cited humongous amount of data, the top court allowed it to furnish two lists. First list of donors and denominations of poll bonds, and the second list of bonds redeemed by political parties. SBI doesn't have to connect the two lists, which will effectively block linking specific donors to individual parties.
The State Bank of India will not be providing any details on which donor has donated the money to which political party, essentially meaning that there will be no matching between the two sets of data, and there will be no data on which political party has received the amount from which particular donor. Keeping this in mind, it comes as a sigh of relief, not just for Bharatiya Janata Party, which has been the biggest beneficiary of the electoral bond scheme, but all of the other political parties that might have been shifty about the details of who has been donating the money for their political activities.
While Congress staged protests at an SBI branch in Bengaluru, party MP Rahul Gandhi called poll bonds the biggest scam and Modi's donation business.
It's very important for the people to know who are the purchasers of these electoral bonds, which political parties were the beneficiaries. Please understand there's a crucial difference between the donations received by other parties and the BJP. The BJP is in a position to give favors to those who contributed to it.
Will SC ruling ensure complete transparency in funds used in elections? With Kanu Sharda in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Chief Justice of India and the Constitution Bench was in a very stern mood today, ticking off Harish Salve, who was arguing on behalf of the government and the State Bank of India, explaining why this couldn't be done. But the Chief Justice came down very hard on the SBI's argument, saying that what you're saying in open court is different from what you've written in the affidavit and that you actually have these details. So why not just make them available? Anjali Bhardwaj is a well-known social activist. She's been fighting this case and arguing for transparency in electoral bonds for a very long time. Sanju Verma is back with us. So I want to go across to Anjali Bhardwaj first. Now, there is mixed opinion on whether the Supreme Court's decision actually will bring about more transparency or not, because the counter can be that if you make public who donated how much without revealing to whom, a lot of what was earlier being given in black will once again go back to being given in black to these political parties. That electoral bonds to some extent brought that black money into white. Now it will revert back into black and no one is any the wiser or any the better.
Well, first of all, Rahul, I think let's be very clear about one thing. The Supreme Court in its judgment on the 15th of February asked the SBI to give two pieces of information. One was purchaser details, who purchased the bonds, of what denomination and on which date. And the other, very clearly, was redeemers details, which political party encashed the bonds, what denomination they were and what date. So nothing has changed today. The Supreme Court has very firmly stood by its decision, its judgment of February 15. And I think that there is no question that there will be much greater transparency once there is compliance with the Supreme Court's judgment. For the simple reason that today, I as a citizen, all the citizens in this country have no idea who has been buying electoral bonds. The regulators in this country, the Election Commission, the RBI, nobody knows who is buying electoral bonds. What is going to happen on the 15th of March, once there is compliance with the Supreme Court's judgment, is that we will all know who donated.
But you won't know who they donated to. Take any corporate group, if they bought 100 rupees of bonds, you don't know who they gave them to.
Yes. So you are absolutely right that they are not linking. The matching was neither ordered on the 15th of February, nor has the court insisted that it be done today. So what will happen really is that there will be a list of all the donors, including all the companies, because let's remember that 94% in value terms of the electoral bonds have been in the denomination of 1 crore rupees, which is indicative of corporate funding. And that's what the court had also said. So we will now know the list of all those who gave these electoral bonds, and there will be a lot of investigative journalism. There will be people who will be examining these lists, and there will be
to see who got what. At least once we know which corporate group Sanju Verma gave how much money, you can see how they've grown or what benefits they got or which projects they got, and then people can form their own judgment. Therefore, Anjali argues it leads to transparency. Also, you know, Harish Salve got a very sorry figure in court today. He got a real pasting from the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court basically said what you've said in the affidavit is different from what you're saying in the court. This whole jalebi that you created about matching, as Anjali points out, the Supreme Court never asked for it. They never said match the bond to which party it went to. The Supreme Court never asked for it. So this is like a jalebi of the government and the SBI's own making.
You know, Rahul, first and foremost, this is a very unpopular opinion, and I'm taking a bit of a risk, but I will have to say this with no offense to the Supreme Court. This entire electoral bond issue, you know, it caught fire in 2018, because in 2018, the same Supreme Court said that electoral bonds are a great way of funding elections in an electoral democracy like India, because you at least know that the money is coming via checks and not via cash, which is what used to happen for the longest time, for 50, 60, 70 odd years. So 70 सालों तक तो पहले, you know, election funding used to happen with cash and black money. Let's not kid ourselves about anything.
No, why don't you come to the question I've asked you? The government was never asked to do matching. The SBI was never asked to do matching. They made that jalebi on their own account, and the Supreme Court just quashed what they were saying. And someone like Harish Salve looked really silly and sorry in court today.
There is no jalebi, and there is no, Indori poha that I'm going to discuss on your show. Let's not trivialize. I just have this to say, that if the State Bank of India has now been given an ultimatum, no less, by the apex court, I always say, irrespective of whether you agree with the Supreme Court or not, if the highest court of the land has asked the SBI, the premier public sector bank, to furnish details, that will be done. But I will also add one thing, Rahul Kamal. I will not allow the opposition to take the moral high ground कि electoral bonds की funding का खुलासा होगा, so then the BJP will be in deep trouble, because let's be very clear, as a percentage of total funds, only 52% of BJP's funding comes from electoral bonds.
SY Qureshi, a couple of points which I want to draw you into. One, how are we better off? You know, if this information is made available in the way that it will be or is supposed to be, people may start going away from electoral bonds because every party knows who's funding how much. Even if they don't reveal it, at least Congress knows that कि मुझे मिला कि नहीं मिला, maybe नहीं मिला. BJP knows अच्छा इसने दिया, हमें तो मिला नहीं, मतलब वहाँ गया. So they can do their own calculation regardless of whether it comes out in the public or not, which basically means that a lot of these companies may revert to funding in black. They used to fund elections in black, at least it came into white, now it will go back into black. How are we better off?
Yeah, quite right. Very well said. Before 2018, 70% of all the donations were in cash, and Election Commission and others were raising serious concerns about it. We are back to that situation now, but at the same time, there have been solutions on mentioned again now and again, that instead of corporate funding of political parties, let us set up a national election fund.
No, but that's a different argument, Mr. Qureshi. I'm on facts, not on an idea. If the bonds are now disclosed, any big corporate which is funding boss, यार ये तो पता चल जाएगा किसको कितना दिया, मत दो, इसको black में ही दो. So we are back to black.
Let me come back to that only. You are right. It has been a partial success for ADR and others, because unless we know who is the donor and who is the recipient of that money, it doesn't really help. Now the whole nation will now be trying to connect the dots, who was the donor, so it is not leading us anywhere. And that was the problem with the original judgment itself. The Supreme Court never asked for that information from the SBI, and I don't know why SBI was delaying something which was already on their computer.
No, but also why should it be made public? That's the other point. Let's assume that XYZ person funds some party. You made a promise, sir. It's like, for example, voluntary disclosure income schemes, right? You made a promise when you took that money that you won't disclose my name. Later, you go and disclose how much I gave. That's like going back on a contract. That's like going back on a promise.
Let me tell you, this case has been in the court from the beginning. And all these donors who have donated have big law department. And they know once the case is before the Supreme Court, the result can go either way. For them to now plead innocence, look, we get donated because we were promised secrecy. They should have known that the case.
No, but then they'll all go back to black. They'll all go back to funding in black. So how is the election process better off?
No, wait. Rahul, which is why they will. No, I'm answering your question. They will go back to black, which is why I'm saying that there is an alternative route of curbing black money, and we should now look at that.
No, but that's a different, much larger point. We are here and now. There's an election, there's a reality, there's a situation at this moment. Your idea of an electoral fund is not the problem with that is you never know whether it will be just that money or they'll take that money from the public exchequer and get their own money on the side. So that also may not be a solution.
So, no, but I don't know then what do you want to know from this case, because whatever I understood, I've already explained to you.
No, I'm trying to understand, and you're not at this moment at least being able to explain to me, how are we better off with this judgment? If we go back to elections being funded in black, how are we better off?
Yeah, we are not better off with this judgment in the sense, unless we know who is the donor, so that we can find the quid pro quo. We are not better off because we are not going to know that.
Okay, let Anjali Bhardwaj try and answer that. SY Qureshi agrees we are not better off with this judgment. Do you agree or disagree, Anjali Bhardwaj?
Look, Rahul, this was something that was debated in the court also. Before electoral bonds came, as citizens, we had no idea what was being donated through cash to political parties. But whatever was coming through the banking channels, we had information. What the electoral bonds did was that while cash continued, because there was, in fact, the Solicitor General said it in those many words, that cash has not stopped. This system has not stopped the flow of cash. But whatever was coming through the banking channel also through electoral bonds went behind a veil. So what the court has today done is that electoral bonds, which made a bad situation worse in terms of transparency, those have been stopped, and retrospectively, we will now know who was donating money.
No, but going forward,
Look,
okay,
Rahul, this is
retrospectively
very
you will know,
important.
correct.
This is
But
very
going forward,
important.
ma'am, you're
want
not
to just
answering my question.
clarify
People
two
will not
things
use this
because
route
you've
because
been
it cannot
asking
now be
that.
done. They will go back to donating in black. So how is the Indian election process better off is my question to you.
They were already donating in black.
Ma'am, but a part of it was black, a part of it was
and
formalized. A part of it was in black, a part of it was formalized because ultimately the money that came in through the banking channels was known. It's a fairly substantive amount. Now, a lot of that will go back into black. So net-net, we could be worse off.
Also, Rahul, your viewers should know that this was something, again, we are not saying, it was discussed in the court, that the government always had a way, and therefore the ruling party always had a way to know who was donating to whom, because all of this was being transacted through the SBI. So donors knew if they were giving to an opposition party through electoral bonds, that
March
that
2018 to July 2023, a total of 13,792 crore rupees were sent using these electoral bonds. My argument is that a large part of this 13,000 crore rupees in the future will go back to the black channels.
Rahul, they could also be just transacted through the banking channel. And what I'm saying is that we as citizens were not even being given information about what is happening through the banking
let
channel.
Sanju Verma respond to that. There is information asymmetry.
And also on your point of whether this should have been done, whether, retrospectively it should have been done. Section 7 of the electoral bond scheme is very clear, that there is anonymity till a competent court orders disclosure. All political parties have legal analysts. They would have told them that if any competent court, and this is the highest court of the land, if any competent court at any point orders disclosure, they would have to disclose.
Now, so
parties were doing this.
Sanju Verma, coming on the point about information asymmetry, that because this is a public bank, because it's the chief is appointed by the government, if it wants to know who's giving how much, will know. Opposition mein kisko kitna mila. The opposition doesn't know who's funding the government. So earlier everybody was blind. Now one side has information, the other side doesn't have information. So it's a worse equation than in the past.
Rahul, one thing which your audience needs to know is that what the Supreme Court has told the SBI to reveal, all that this SBI will reveal is the list of donors and the list of recipients. List of recipients ki knowledge to
Ma'am, you're not answering my question about information asymmetry. You almost acting as if you didn't hear or understand my question. You're very smart. You understand what I'm saying.
I'm coming to that. Why are you getting so rattled?
Because आप जवाब ही नहीं दे रहे हो. जब से आए हो आपको जो जवाब देना होता है आप देते हो. मेरे सवाल का जवाब नहीं देते हो.
आप इतने impatient तो पहले कभी नहीं थे. आज आपको हुआ क्या है, राहुल जी?
Okay, why don't you answer my question, ma'am?
I'm answering your question. I don't think there is any information asymmetry, because please understand that under Section 3 of the ECI guidelines pertaining to the Constitution, Article 324, even the government, it cannot summarily ask SBI to provide information ki recipients ki list do or donors ki list do. But abhi every stakeholder will be privy to the same information.
Ma'am, you ask most people who are watching
time.
at this time that if somebody powerful in the government asks the SBI chairperson whose tenure and appointment depends on the government ki batao bhai kisko kya mila, will he not give the information? So if the government wants to get the information, it can get the information. Even if the opposition wants to get the information, it cannot get the information.
Rahul, tell me one thing.
Yes.
Tell me one thing. No, please, no, keep quiet, because I heard you you made a very reckless remark. I want to ask you something. You are the executive editor of India Today.
I just got demoted, but that's fine. Go on.
Okay, you're the managing editor. My bad, whatever. I will promote you. Ye bhi mere haath mein hota. Are you telling me that everything that you say and do on your show, it has to pass muster with Arun Puri? यदि अरुण पुरी कहेंगे कि राहुल कंवल आपका आज का नैरेटिव ऐसे होना चाहिए on CAA, तो आप मानोगे? There is an arm's length. We are all professional people. The government cannot blindly tell SBI, अच्छा भाई, आज नरेंद्र मोदी और अमित शाह को इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए because it is a public sector bank, आप दीजिए information. What does the Supreme Court tell Harish Salve today? All it says is, let us know the denomination of the bonds, let us know when the bonds were encashed, let us know who were the purchasers of the bonds. You tell me, Rahul, कल यदि सुप्रीम कोर्ट में यह खुलासा होता है that अंबानी, अडानी, अनिल अग्रवाल वेदांता ग्रुप, रतन टाटा, Wipro, Infosys, these were the big donors. I think anonymity is very essential. मान लो कल ये पता पड़े कि मुकेश अंबानी ने कांग्रेस को तो दिया था पर टीएमसी को नहीं दिया. Will Mukesh Ambani not be persona non grata in West Bengal? So sometimes anonymity is essential to
so this
keep
is a very complex debate.
Politics.
It has different layers. We tried to unpack some of those complexities. Ultimately, it's for the viewer to decide. Sanju Verma says, do you believe if the SBI chairman is asked by this government to give the details, will he not give the details? I don't want to say anything. I want to leave it to our viewers to decide who they think is right on this. Ultimately, it is for our viewers to decide. Even Sanjuji is smiling, but that's fine. We'll leave it over there. Are we, and as SY Qureshi and Anjali Bharadwaj both said, are we better off? You know, ultimately, if I am making a donation in the promise that this will be kept secret, suddenly you reveal my name. Is that fair to that person? Now, SY Qureshi argued that they have big legal cells and stuff, but at that time, they understood the process to be what it is. So it has different complexities. And let's see how this plays out. Mr. S.Y. Qureshi, Anjali Bharadwaj said something important. There will now be a lot of these activists who will try and map, and even the political party will know. Take any company, I don't name someone, but if that company paid 100 crores to X and the opposition says, hame to nahi mila, or if the government says, hame to nahi mila, then they know that it didn't come to them, and then does that particular corporate then get victimized? So there are different layers at which this will play out from here on. For the time being, Mr. Qureshi, Anjali Bharadwaj and Sanju Verma for joining me on the Newstrack. Thank you very much. As I said, life is not black and white. There's no one yes and one no. There's no one right and one wrong. There is complexity, and what we try and do on the Newstrack is to try and penetrate the different layers of complexity so you get a more nuanced view of the things the way they are. Otherwise, you've just got Anbhakti on the one side and you've got people who are just going after the government on the other, and without really thinking through all the levels at which these issues really operate. Now for a story that's been trending worldwide since yesterday. A Photoshop image of the Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, has set off several conspiracy stories. Internet users pointed out that the first picture of Kate since her surgery in January was manipulated and has, through digital forensics, proven to be a manipulated image. Now, 4 news agencies issued a kill notification for this image, fueling rumors that Kate, who underwent surgery in January, is more unwell than it appears.
It was the image that royal watchers and the world had been waiting. Princess of Wales' first image since her abdominal surgery in January. The image, taken by Prince William for Mother's Day, showed Kate Middleton with her 3 children and had a message from her which said, and I quote, "Thank you for your kind wishes and continued support over the last 2 months." But the image has now sparked concerns of manipulation, with at least 4 news agencies withdrawing the picture. Getty Images, AFP, Reuters and Associated Press have pulled the photo, noting an inconsistency in alignment of Princess Charlotte's left hand. Many have pointed out that Kate is not wearing her wedding ring. But it's the sweater sleeve of Princess Charlotte that has triggered a wave of reactions. Prince Louis's fingers also appear to be photoshopped. It may well have been that some editing was done on the original photo. But is the entire photo fake? Is the Princess of Wales more unwell than she appears in the image? As Kate's conspiracies exploded, the Princess of Wales clarified, saying that she does experiment with editing photos. She also apologized for any confusion that the family photograph may have caused. Bureau Report, India Today.
The strange thing is that at a time when so much digital forensics is possible, why would the palace put out a manipulated picture? Now that really raises questions about how Kate's doing. This has already been a conspiracy. They've just fueled it much further. This is where I wrap up the Newstrack tonight. Thank you for your time and your trust.